Hello and welcome to 5-Year Club video number 266. Tonight I'll just be talking about an analysis I did for myself today because I was curious. I have this savings contribution graph that I like a lot because it shows my personal behavior in terms of the amount of money that I'm saving. So in this case, the blue line is the amount of money that I've saved this year, and you can see it's kind of ticked up in this last bit because vacation season is over when I wasn't saving enough money, and so now I'm more aggressively saving. And you wonder, like, how much of the money that I save actually impacts my net worth? Like, do I put money into a savings account that's then invested in companies that immediately go bust and so I lose all my money? Or do I put it in a bank account that just doesn't earn anything or lose anything? And so I have exactly the same amount of net worth growth as savings amount? Or is there, does it just wiggle around a lot because the stock market fluctuates? And if I'm saving in a given year less than I've already saved in the previous years, then perhaps those stock market fluctuations really dominate what's happening with net worth much more than the current contributions toward savings. Anyhow, personal capital makes it very easy to select a given day in your past, and it will give you a net worth number for that. So all I did is I looked at all the dates where I made savings contributions, and on personal capital, I just noted my net worth on that day, and then I subtracted out the net worth at the beginning of the year, so I got a change in net worth. And so that's what you can see on this graph. You can see basically the relative changes of my net worth versus my contributions towards savings. Obviously, I have removed the numbers from it because I don't want that to be a distraction. And there are several things that I learned from doing this exercise. Number one, savings and net worth are not the same thing, right? So specifically, savings is money that you have transferred into an account that you don't plan to spend, whereas net worth is just all of the stuff that you have. So if you have, a big chunk of cash sitting in your checking account, that is not savings because it is still in the checking account. It is still in danger of being spent. Savings, by my definition, is money where you have transferred that money out of the checking account to a designated savings account of whatever form that you want, or to an investment account, and then you can count it as savings. So I cleaned out the inside of a video game console earlier today, so I'm like, oh, there's a dust bunny. Anyhow, right. So what I learned is that because this difference right here is due to the fact that I transferred a big chunk of cash at the beginning of the year into a savings account, which bumps up the savings number at the very beginning of the year on the 2nd of January. But because I was just transferring cash from an account I own to another account I own, there wasn't any net worth bump, associated with that contribution. And so right off from the beginning of the year, you can see that my savings is higher than the net worth change. And as we followed along, you can see that gap from that particular transaction persists. And I'm not sure that there were any other transactions that were similar to that. I think most of the stuff for the remainder of the year is due to market movements. And what's sad is that I know the market, the S&P 500, increased about 9-10% this year. And my personal investments have basically been flat. And the reason is because I have international funds and bonds in addition to S&P 500 stuff, and those have not done as well as the S&P 500. And so as a result, when you average everything together, my personal investment portfolio had a very 2018 so far. And so that's why this red line has not caught up to the blue line. I would have expected it to catch up and kind of grow faster than the blue line because this red line is, it's all the investments I've made before 2018 and what they're supposed to be earning. That's supposed to be changing my net worth and making it go up, but it didn't because of my particular investment mix. And in response to this, I finally was convinced, like, you know what? I need to not own as many bonds. I really just don't like bonds that much. I would much rather than hold bonds, which I don't have a lot of like confidence or belief in. I would much rather either just hold cash, like a modest amount of cash, or decrease my spending to the point where the amount of cash or non-stock stuff that I have to hold to maintain my emergency fund is really, really low. So I can just stay out of these things that are not equities, these things that are not productive entities. Like, I mean, basically rental real estate and equities, stocks are like the things that I've read that seem like a particularly good idea. Bonds, it's like, I could take it or leave it. So yeah, I made that change. So I sold some bonds and bought some VTI. That's just the Vanguard Total Market Index Fund. And for sure, like, stocks are inflated right now. Bonds are also inflated right now. A lot of stuff is inflated right now. So, you know, if the market crashes next year and I lose temporarily, you know, more money than I would have if I was holding bonds, I have to accept that. In the long run, history is in my favor that I will come out ahead if I can just maintain not selling these stocks for 10 years. And so now I should just build up cash reserves so that these stocks they are protected, more or less. And of course, decrease fixed costs. So that's always good. But, you know, overall, the message that I get from doing this chart is one where it's like, you know, these lines are really similar. Turns out your net worth change comes from not spending money. Your net worth change comes from earning money and putting it into investments, putting it into a savings account, and not spending it. It doesn't magically come from the sky. It doesn't come from nowhere. Like, your net worth isn't going to appear one day. It comes from all of the contributions that you make monthly, annually, year after year. It comes from the things that you do to yourself psychologically to get yourself to pay yourself first, like I talked about before, to get yourself to set aside money and read about this stuff. That's where the net worth change comes from. It's not going to happen otherwise. Like, there's a very direct connection. Yeah, saving, you know, $100 out of one paycheck, it doesn't look like at that moment that you've done very much. But when you start doing that and you increase that amount over time and you think about how you can save more over time, how you can earn more, how you can spend less, it begins to make a big difference. And then you look at, you know, things over the course of the year and you're like, wow, that's like, these numbers are not numbers that myself 10 years ago would have even thought about dealing with. And now I'm like, things are going great. So yeah, that's the message. Save some money. If you save money, you'll have net worth. If you have net worth, your life will be very comfortable. If you don't save money, you won't have the net worth. If you don't have the net worth, you start having some tough choices to make, and I don't want you to have to make those choices. All right, well, that is it for 5-Year Club video number 266. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you will maybe investigate doing this chart for yourself and learning something. If you haven't already signed up for Personal Capital, I think that's a great idea. If you haven't already figured out a way to pay yourself first, you know, either open a savings account, open an investment account somewhere, put a regular transfer, you know, for the same day or the next day that you get paid. Do those things. Those things are what make this engine run. Have a fabulous evening.